Hi, I'm Doug Bradley, Pinhead from the Hellraiser movies, and he is
Paul Jones, prosthetic makeup artist of the movies.
And you are watching Sofa King Cool magazine. And you better keep on watching Sofa King Cool magazine, or I will tear your soul apart.
Alright, Sofa King Cool here with Doug Bradley and Paul Jones. How you guys doing?
Good.
Doug Bradley.
Nice to see you again.
And I'm Paul Jones. How are you?
It's been quite a long time since you guys been together, is that correct?
We haven't worked together since '92, 24 years. Half my lifetime.
Jesus.
I just did the math.
That's not quite half my lifetime. 24 years?
24 years.
Holy shit, that's a while.
That's strange, yeah.
92, so that was the reshoots.
Yes. No, I didn't go to the reshoots.
Oh,
Gary did the reshoots.
Okay.
That's right. It was just North Carolina.
Hellraiser. Oh, no, but...
Did reshoots in LA? No, because Gary took care of it.
Okay.
That's when
Then what about publicity stuff? You didn't do any of that?
Oh, wait a minute. We did...
93?
We did, yeah. No, I got it completely wrong. We did the MTV Awards.
Yes.
We flew to New York and did the Arsenio Hall show.
And Planet Hollywood.
Yes, and
I went walkabout down 34th Street or whatever it was.
That's right.
Clive said to me, I am in full makeup and costume. And it was Entertainment Tonight suggested we go out onto the street, Clive and I, and they followed us with the cameras. Clive said to me, just when you have a moment, just turn around and look behind you. There's about 100 people following us down the street. Clive said, I think you should turn left, keep going till you get to Central Park and deliver the new Sermon on the Mount.
Nice.
And the Hollywood Wax Museum we did.
I don't know whether I did that one. It's been a while. It's been a while.
MTV Awards, Pinhead meets Ringo Starr.
That was it's the first time I've ever seen you actually nervous.
Oh.
Very confident man, Doug.
I stepped up. We used to put the makeup and costume on in the hotel in Beverly Hills, and then they rode me out to UCLA, where what's the name of the...
Dana Carvey was outside.
Dana Carvey used to do the thing with celebrities whose names weren't on the list, so they couldn't get in.
Okay, all right.
And it was Pinhead, Andrew Dice Clay, Roseanne, and Ringo Starr, whose names were not on the list and couldn't get in. So I arrive in the stretch limo. Oh, there's a good story too, because we'd put the makeup and costume on up in my room. And then we ride the elevator down to the ground floor, and halfway down, the elevator stops, the elevator doors open, and there's a regular LA businessman standing in the corridor with his attaché case, confronted by Pinhead in the elevator.
Full costume.
And he just kind of took a step backwards and went, okay. And the doors closed and down we went.
Because I was like stood off to the side, so it was just basically Doug standing there in full regalia. It was fantastic.
Just stared back at him. Then I invented the game in the limo as well. When we stopped at a stoplight, if there was a car next to me, I would just bring the window down and just look out of the window. And if it timed right, the driver would be sitting there, as we do at the stoplight. And then he'd go, just as the lights turned green and I took off, and he'd be left there going...
For the rest of the day, he's doubting his sanity. Yeah. That was fun.
So I'm feeling very cool. We had to stop to get my contact lenses as well.
Yes, we did.
In Westwood Village, I think.
I think so, yeah.
So limo glides up to the sidewalk, door opens, Pinhead gets out, hoists up his skirts and runs across the sidewalk into the optometrist's to get his contact lenses fitted, much to the consternation of passing shoppers. Get to UCLA, I'm feeling very cool, step out of my limousine. Hey Doug, we're delighted to have you with us today. Ringo Starr is here. And they walked us up to the auditorium where Elton John and Eric Clapton were rehearsing.
They're rehearsing inside, yeah.
And I turned the corner and Ringo was chatting to a couple of guys and had his back to me. And he turned around and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, it's Pinhead." And my legs went to jelly and I turned into every embarrassed fanboy. So any fan who comes to my table and apologizes for being a mess and not being able to put a coherent sentence together has no need to apologize, because I made a complete and utter fool of myself that day.
Just because you're from Liverpool.
And I was born and raised in Liverpool. I was 8 when Love Me Do hit the charts. They are the first and last for me. Right. And with all due respect to Mr. Starkey, that was just Ringo. If it had been Paul or George or, God help me, Lennon, I wouldn't have been able. I would have been like a lot of these people. I would not have been able to speak to him.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to speak to him. I just wouldn't. It would have come out as Cliff Clavin trying to speak to women. It would have, from Cheers.
Oh yeah.
It would have been that. Anyway, that was the MTV Awards.
It's a fabulous memory. I couldn't remember any of this until he reminded me. Now I've got all these flashes in my mind.
Now what I want to ask you is, do you guys kind of have a love-hate relationship just because of the fact that you're the FX? Exactly. I mean, I'm just saying, it's got to be so hard where he puts you in the makeup chair for how many hours will it take?
I have the best and the worst job in the world, because I do exactly what I love, but the people have to sit in a chair while somebody sticks stuff to their face.
Yeah, and
doesn't matter how good the end result is, at the end of the day, nobody likes sitting still for 3 hours.
Right.
Especially Doug. Even though he's done it so many times, it's still a process, So sometimes we had a couple of days on Hellraiser 3 that was stressed.
I have nothing to say. You can tell it like it was. I don't know. I'm sure I was a complete and utter little shit a lot of the time. But
I was also 24 years old.
Okay. All right.
So walking libido.
Right.
So I had other things going on. So yeah. But it was.
I also have no comment to make about that.
I think everybody on that show was in the same boat at one point.
Well,
except for me.
Except for Doug.
I'm just saying it's got to be a hard process all the way through, because after the makeup's done, you have a strict regimen of what you can do and what you can't do, because the makeup can tear at the lips, or something can come on the side.
Yeah.
Doug's one of the most professional guys once he's wearing the makeup. I've had guys come back from lunch with like chins hanging off and like lips flapping up. Doug's such a pro that when he goes to lunch, he still realizes he's still wearing the makeup. So he's constantly moving stuff out the way to get the food in there. Comes back from lunch with very little wear and tear. So it's only when you got to put your glasses on that's funny, because you have to literally move the pins out of the way, because otherwise you blind yourself.
Yeah, first couple of movies I was only allowed to eat bread and dry salad. I got better.
Yeah.
And I got clever, because I got to the point where I could get a little piece of meat on the end of a fork and then
Right through the teeth.
Pull it off with my teeth. So, but it's counterproductive for yourself, because you may enjoy lunch, but then the whole of your afternoon is having someone sticking a paint, a glue brush down here, and then doing this and hair dryers and all the rest going on, which is not fun. But I always say to the fans, because they ask me over and over and over and over again, how long did the makeup take? My standard answer is 3 to 4 hours. Though early on it was more like 5 or 6. With him it was like 12 hours, because he had no idea what he was doing.
Still don't. I think the fastest
generally
we ever
generally
did it.
about 3 or 4 hours. But I always say, because people are terribly impressed by this, I didn't do anything. I sat my ass and I drank coffee and I listened to music and I made a nuisance of myself. These guys do the work and they're on their feet and breaking their back all the time because they're always bending over and at awkward angles and so forth. So
I remember there being, I think me and Steve Painter did you once, and we got it down to 59 minutes.
Wow.
Because
Okay.
all the pieces were there. I remember Steve writing it down the first time ever we got it in less than an hour.
Was that would be the night I started out as Elliot, and then we switched.
Exactly. We had to do it. We had to put him in makeup in the middle of the day.
Okay.
So he was playing the human Pinhead, and then Pinhead in the afternoon. So it was like we had a very small turnaround.
Yeah.
So because normally it was just me gluing on your makeup. Steve
Yeah.
was doing something else. Mark was doing something. These are the guys who have successful careers now. But we all started out in the same company, which is Image Animation, which was run by a guy named Bob Keane.
Mark Coulier, double Oscar winner.
Double Oscar winner, yeah. Yeah, it's great. Neil Gorton has his whole empire now in LA.
That was a weird night as well because I was very happy because I started out, this was the scenes where Elliot and Pinhead confront each other. So I did the first half of the night as Elliot, and I'm having a great time because I'm 10 minutes in the makeup chair. It's like a shock, you know. I sit down and they go, "Okay, you're done." I'm what? And I've got the military uniform on and
Very dapper.
feeling pretty dapper. And I walked onto the sound stage. There'd been a long line of people trying to convince the director and the first AD that they looked a lot like me because they realized somebody was going to have to play Pinhead for the other half of those scenes. You know, people who were a foot taller than me and a foot smaller than me and much wider than me and probably narrower than me as well. In the end, not surprisingly, it was my stand-in who I did a show in North Carolina. He turned up.
Really?
He got the gig, so he's already in makeup and costume as Pinhead. I walked onto the soundstage and I saw Pinhead, and it was completely fucking weird because
It's kind of a surreal moment.
I had never.
time.
Everybody else has had that perception of seeing Pinhead.
Right.
I never have, other than in a mirror or in a photograph or on the screen. And I kind of stopped, and it was. I didn't like it. It was, you know.
Yeah.
That was a weird day.
That's me. That's my character. Like, what are you doing in my?
First time anybody else had ever worn that makeup as well.
How did all these
3 movies.
Cenobites get into my room?
Yeah. It was always Doug. So it was, I know you were a bit nervous the day before because it was like, how am I gonna handle this? Because it was like, this is my guy, this is my character. And then we kept saying, we're just gonna see the back of his head. It's all about you. And the funny thing was, the guy that played him, he was hired separately to his girlfriend, who was also the stand-in on the movie.
Okay.
So the first time we did him in makeup, his girlfriend had a big crush on Doug in the makeup. So when her boyfriend gets the makeup done, I was literally asked the question, can he go home in this makeup? Because we have an agenda this evening.
Oh, okay.
And I said, absolutely not. That's totally
Weren't they trying
unprofessional.
to bribe you to vacate the makeup trailer for 20 minutes?
Exactly,
as well? But-
exactly. And we were like, no, sorry, nobody.
Time is money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is an iconic image. We can't have you desecrate it.
You guys continue to work together besides Hellraiser, is that correct? You guys do?
We've worked together a couple of times. We worked together on Nightbreed.
Yes, Nightbreed was before
Hellraiser.
Hellraiser 3.
Yeah.
And were you around on Hellbound?
I did some designing for that. That was
Okay,
Gary, yeah. Because once the movies moved from Hellraiser, they moved basically to LA. And a mutual friend of ours, Gary, he basically took over the makeup because he was based in Los Angeles. So I kind of did my own thing in Toronto. He has the kind of that kind of thing going on in LA. So yeah, it's.
But Mark Coulier did my makeup on Nightbreed, so
Yes,
we weren't working directly. Who were you?
I was Mark's assistant.
Okay.
Doing Lylesburg.
Okay.
And then when we did the reshoots for Nightbreed, I took over your makeup,
Lylesburg. Okay,
so
yes,
Mark could do Shuna Sassy.
Right. Okay. Well,
This is the guy that's
Nightbreed was insane. Nightbreed
Yeah.
was crazy. There was so many monsters. There were days when, I mean, these guys were running around in circles because you had, what, 20, 30 actors to get into prosthetic makeup.
20-hour days, 6 days a week, yeah.
It's madness. It was a difficult shoot. It's one of those shoots where towards the end you see people start to develop a grey palette to their skin because they're basically not sleeping.
Right.
No, it's not a good thing.
But it's still, in my world, I was visiting a shop in LA recently and I walked in, there was these guys, 19, 20-year-old guys, and they went, dude, we've just been waiting to meet you. Nightbreed was my movie. That was the movie that inspired me to get into this. And I was like, cool. And he goes, yeah, tell me some Nightbreed stories, man. And he was like 19 years old, and it's like so long ago. It's like, you're gonna have to tell me, I've forgotten everything.
For sure. Now, let me ask you this. You guys are two icons in the horror industry. I mean, you obviously as being the characters, you doing the makeup. Is it hard to see now that CGI has taken over where the makeup's not actually there anymore and it's more of a green screen situation?
You know, from my point of view, the technology, of course, has taken over a little bit, but also the products I'm using in my field have come up to the standard of HD film. So now we're getting hired to do more realistic stuff, but because the pressure is now off us to be the only thing on screen, we're now only doing a piece of the puzzle. We get paid the same money for doing half the work.
Okay, very cool.
So we can just do light-in stand-ins or a piece that's going to be like modified or augmented by CGI. So it's actually easier for us. So I love CGI. I'm always pitching what I call hybrid effects because it's half CG, half prosthetics. Because then I don't have to make someone's neck open up and then spray blood. It can just be a big horrible gash that the CG guys can paint out, and it's already there when they're acting, and all of a sudden it appears with CG and it just blood comes out. So it's actually half the work for the same money. It's actually great.
Is there any chance of you two ever working together again? Any future projects or maybe something?
It's not impossible. It's not something that we can necessarily make happen.
No, but I was having a conversation with some independent producers in Toronto. Your name came up a few times to actually come up to Toronto and star in a movie. So you never know.
Okay.
Can you give us a little clue what that might be?
It's still in
I'm intrigued.
It's still in development. Yeah. No, there's a company I do a lot of work with called Raven Banner, that a really big independent company in Toronto, and I was actually up for directing a movie at one point, and I'm still on their books as possibly finding a project that could work. And they say, do you know anybody we could bring in who's the kind of a horror icon? I goes, actually I know a guy, who's actually
and he's
pretty
very
iconic,
cheap.
So I think there's a good chance somewhere down the road, but I'd want to hire Doug as an actor, not as somebody who's going to wear any makeup.
Awesome.
Because Doug is a really good actor.
Awesome.
You're a stage actor. You've done.
It's where I started. Theatre is the reason I wanted to be an actor. Everything else has followed up, but I love working in movies. I love being on a movie set. Ideally, I would do both, but I haven't done any theatre for a while now. I had a one-man show, An Evening with Death, that I was doing up to a few years ago, but I would never turn my back on doing theatre if the opportunity came along.
You're actually in the Misfits clips of right before the shows of last year's tour, right?
Yes. Jerry wanted to put together a series of little homages to horror films, and one of them he wanted to be an homage to Hammer. So Jerry is playing Dracula, basically, and he asked me to give my Van Helsing very briefly. They came to Greensburg, near where I live, and we went to see the show, and I was looking forward to it, but apparently there was some kind of screw up that the theatre couldn't project the clip, so I didn't get to see it.
It's so disappointing, especially doing all the work.
Yeah.
Being there, not seeing it.
But it was cool. We shot it in a cemetery in the middle of the night, which is always fun.
We understand they're going to be using some of those in the reunited shows because the Misfits have got back together with Glenn.
I hear that they buried their differences and they're getting back together, which is cool. Yeah. Okay.
Before I let you guys go, I understand that you guys have a big presence on social media. You guys got a lot of things going on. People want to follow up more about you. They want to know where to go. What would be the best way for the fans to reach you and see what projects you have coming out next? And
I have a Facebook page, which is a fan page. I don't do Facebook, and I don't do Twitter either. But also my website, dogbradley.com. So those two basically, and I have an Instagram account, I believe, which Steph looks after for me. Do people know how to get to that? Do they?
Search for you, they'll find you.
Okay. Search for me, you'll find me. Says a voice from my left. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and I have fun with the Facebook page, but I don't bother with the rest of it. I wanted to get it. There was a T-shirt I wanted to get. It had like the Facebook logo, but it was an H instead of an F. And then it said, "How about we all leave each other the fuck alone for 5 minutes, book?" I'd sign up to that one.
I have exactly the same. I have a website, Paul Jones FX, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. They're all there. Easily found. Yeah, so great.
perfect. All right, guys, I appreciate your time, and I'm so glad I got a chance to see you guys together after so many years.
Me too.
It was an amazing moment for us and for the fans that are watching.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Very much.